Why do migration policies often fail? That is one of the main questions my book, How Migration Really Works, tries to answer. My name is Hein de Haas. I'm professor of sociology at the University of Amsterdam, and I've been conducting migration research over the last 30 years. Migration policies often fail because they are not based on a real understanding of how migration really works. And this is why I wrote my book, to provide real information, real facts about migration behind the headlines, behind the political rhetoric. When we think about migration, many people think about boats and migrants drowning at borders, but actually the vast majority of migrants moves legally, for instance by plane. Many people think it's about poverty, it's about refugees, but actually growing labor shortages are the main reason why migration to Western countries has been increasing over the last few decades. Economies have become more and more dependent on migrants to do all sorts of jobs that natives no longer want or can do. All fast-growing, successful economies attract labor migrants. And this is not only about engineers and doctors, it is also about lower-skilled migrants who work in sectors like restaurants, hotels, the transport business, and of course intensive agriculture. And that shows a fundamental dilemma between, on the one hand, this will to have this growing economy, and on the other hand, to have less migration. Governments can't have their cake and eat it too. People believe that development in poor countries will lead to less migration. But we know from research that development in the form of economic growth, increasing education, increases people's capabilities and aspirations to migrate. And this is why migration is development. More and more countries will be confronted with aging, and that means that in more and more countries there will be increasing labor shortages. So the question of the future may not be how to stop migrants from coming, but how actually to attract them. From the years of research I've undertaken and shared, and the work I've done with governments and international organizations, the radio and TV debates in which I've participated,
Dit programma heeft nog nooit zoveel diepgang gehad. Dit is echt...
I've concluded that speaking truth to power isn't enough to change the tone and improve the quality of debates. For instance, typically, after I give a lecture to senior policymakers, they congratulate me for the fascinating presentation, but then immediately quip, "We can never implement your insights." That would be political suicide. We need a new way to talk about migration, because the current frame is one of pro and anti. We need a much more nuanced perspective, not as a problem to be solved or as a solution to problems. We need a vision of migration how it is, as an intrinsic part of broader processes of social transformations that acknowledges that migration has positive sides and negative sides, but any good policy or debate should be based on understanding how migration really works.